Welcome to lesson 34, Introduction to Graphing. I actually enjoy this lesson a lot because of all the different technology advances that have happened now with graphing and graphing calculators. These are things that did not happen when I was a young kid. So yes, we had graphing calculators. They were definitely more basic than the ones we have now, and we didn't have them on computers. But most of the time, we had to do them by hand. And maybe when we're younger, we need to practice doing that. It makes sense. But we have tools now. And instead of doing things the way other people did it way back then, we're going to use our technology since we already know those skills and do the real work that we're being assessed on. So that's going to be our goal for today. Here's our criteria for success. We're going to input equations in a y equals form into a graphing calculator. So we have to make sure that it is in y equals mx plus b form, and we're going to use our calculators to complete tables of values. So different teachers may have difference of opinion on this. Maybe they want to just make sure you know how to complete a table yourself with an equation, but my vision is to use the actual tool of the calculator to find the table. And I'm going to be using Desmos for graphing for this lesson because it is free. And even if you don't have your own graphing calculator in your house, you do have access to Desmos. You can get the app on your phone, on a tablet, or use it on a laptop. We're also going to identify and accurately plot the coordinates. So even though we're going to use a calculator to get points, we're then going to make sure that we actually plot it down. So it's not like we're not going to do paper graphing, but we're just going to use the tool. And then we're going to connect the points to make a straight line, putting arrows on both ends. So we're going to just make sure that it looks appropriate in the end. All right, so let's jump in. Here's our model problem. Joey wants to host a problem where the cost of the party, y, can be modeled by the equation y equals 20x plus 15, where x is the number of guests. Complete the table and graph the equation. All right, so I'm going to put our equation here on top. 20x plus 15. X is the number of guests. And Y is the cost of the party. And so we have two things we're going to be doing. One, we're completing this table, and then two, we're graphing the points. So I'm going to start by thinking about this manually, and then I'm going to stop and go right into Desmos because we do have graphing calculators, so we do not have to spend all our time just substituting and finding all the values. So if I was doing this by values, all I would do is take whatever my x is, substitute it into our equation to figure out what y is. 20 times 2 is 40. 40 plus 15 is 55. And so I could just do that each time to just figure out all of these points. You can do that. 120, so this would be 135, 160, 175. So that's one way to do this. I'm going to show you another. All right, we're going to jump on to Desmos.com. So I'm just going to use for a graphing calculator, but you can use any graphing calculator. And I'm just going to type in our equation y equals 20x plus 15. All right, and I can actually see our entire graph. It's already here. Now, I did make changes to the points on the side because I knew that my y value had to go all the way up to at least 180. So I'm just going to move this down. I can make changes here. Same thing with my x. I could make it as big or small as I want. So if at first your graph is pretty funky, like too skinny, which is what happened to me the first time, you can make adjustments and make changes. So here's one thing. I can graph it and see it, but I can also on a graphing calculator see my points and create a table. So super helpful. I don't want the 0. So I'm going to get rid of that one for a second and get rid of this one. But I can come up with all the points and I can type in like when there's 4 guests, when there's 5 guests, when there's 6 guests. I can put in the numbers I want, and then I can literally just take these points, these coordinate pairs, and put them back in my graph. So this is just another way, if you have a tool that you can use, why not take advantage? So that's all I wanted to show you. I could literally just take my points from here. I can graph my equation, and I can use the table feature to find any coordinate pairs by inputting anything I want for x. So if there are 12 guests, if a 512 guests, it will tell me what y is. So now that we have our points, you're just going to create a complete graph. So make sure it has a title, which is my equation. I have my labels. I have to create my scale. So I'm going to make my scale go by 15s on my y-axis because my numbers are very high. So I'm skipping so you can see it. And my x-axis, I'm okay with that going by, I can make it go by 1s or 2s. Actually, I'm going to do skipping. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope, that's not enough. So I'm going to change my scale and just have it go by 1s. So here's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And then the last thing you have to do is just plot your points. That's it. It's not a perfect scale. It's not perfect, but it will be helpful. So our first one was just 255. So about here. Then I have 495. About here. 135. About over here, and 175. So about here. And I am going from 0.15 was the very first point. And then you just create your straight line. And that's it. That's all I'm doing. So noticing I'm just using my tools, create a table, make a graph, and then I used the acronym Teachers Love Great Salads. Title, label, graph it, space it, and figure out your scale. All right, here are the coordinates. Take a look and see whether or not your work matches mine, my complete table, as well as all the points. So they've all been graphed in that order. Here's 2, 7, 0, 5, 1, 4, 3, 2, 5, 0, and 7, negative 2. It is linear, so I can draw a line through all the points. And I'm going to put arrows on both ends for the equation. Now, I always tended to like to write the equation on the line, like right over it, so we could see that as well. So if you got this answer, fantastic, great job. Go into the rest of practice and keep going. Now, if you didn't get this answer and you're not sure why, let's walk through it and see what would happen on Desmos and where a possible error could have happened. Okay, so I've opened up the app and I've immediately typed in y equals negative x plus 5. So that's the very first thing. Make sure that you've written that exact same formula written in there, and there's a negative sign in front of the x. Once you do that, you're going to see automatically that they're graphing the line. So as soon as you type it in, the line will be graphed. So how do I get the points again? You're going to go to this little cog on the top, that little spinning wheel, like a machine cog. You're going to hit that, and you're going to hit the little box that looks like columns. That's what you want. And now you're going to get columns of points. Now, some of these points you're going to need for your table. So you can see negative 2, when x is negative 2, that's on our table. When x is 0, that is on our table. And when x is 1, that is on our table as well. But the points that are not there is when x is 3, 5, and 7. So you would literally go to the next box. You type in 3, you get 2. You type in 5, you get, you get 0, yes. And you type in 7, and you get negative 2. So all those points are there. And I'm going to just hit this the arrows, those two little arrows heading to the left. And you can see all your points are here. Here they are. And so this is what your graph should look like. And I did the same thing on mine. After I placed all my values on my table, I just started to graph them accordingly so our graphs would match. Okay, so if you had a different answer, check to see where the error might have been. Is it in the way you were plotting? Is it in not being able to find the table, or was there something else happening with calculations? So hopefully you found this really helpful, and this explanation helped you if you did have an error, and so that you can change it before you get to an assessment. That's it for today's lesson, Math Marvel. I'll see you in the next one. Be well.